Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a
Hello,
new
everyone.
episode of
Welcome back
this.
to a new
I
episode
knew
of.
I knew you would do this, and I thought this morning I was like, oh,
I
I'm
joked
just
about it
fucking
last
up
week,
really
I think.
fast. Oh, you did.
I'm
Uh,
not going to do it for the whole thing. I'm done
no,
now.
thank God. Before I explain that, if you hadn't already known, this is the weekly show where me and Liam discuss Doctor Who episodes, specifically from 2005 or the modern Who stuff. And if Liam's annoying I don't know, verbal tick was a giveaway.
Annoying. I think you mean hilarious.
Sure.
I think you mean witty,
Yes,
profound,
yes.
insightful.
Original, 100%
Yes.
unique.
Yeah.
We
No,
have
could have been done
reached
before.
we have reached episode 10 of series 4, Midnight, which is probably one of the creepier, I think, episodes of the show. That's not centered around a creepy monster. Kind of, but you can't see a creepy monster, I guess.
Psychologically scary more than
Yes,
classic stuff. Yeah.
yes. So this episode sees David Tennant's 10th Doctor take a nice little break from adventuring, with
Aw.
Donna staying behind, getting a nice lovely tan at this spa. The Doctor's like, I'm going to go and see the sights. So he boards a tour bus with a bunch of humans that are visiting an alien planet because God forbid there be other species in a Doctor Who episode.
This is the cheap episode, Connor.
Oh, sorry, you're right. That's why I
You
have
can't afford aliens.
So,
That's why you don't see the monster.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he boards a tour bus, and things are going pretty well. He's going to go see a nice waterfall, but then all of a sudden, as things do, things went terribly wrong. The crew and the tourists are stalked by some creepy, unseen alien, and it, I think, possesses one of the cabin people, and then just rains hell, I guess. Just
Basically.
really fucks shit up. Um, what did you think of the episode?
I loved it.
Yeah. So
It's my favorite of series 4 so far.
Mhm.
I think it's one of my favorites that we've covered so far. I always remember liking it. I know it's very well regarded. And my slight worry was, oh, is it going to be really slow to get going? No, it's fine. Yeah, I adored it. For the first time ever, my friends, dear viewers, I didn't write my notes down on pad and pen. I wrote it down on my laptop right in front of me because I didn't want to take my eyes off the screen. And I can just type like this, and just stare at the screen. Because I didn't really want to miss any of this. It was so good. Great performances, very well written, very, very creepy and psychologically scary, which Doctor Who doesn't tend to delve into unless the budget requires them to, I guess. And these are the results, so I'm not going to complain about that in the slightest. It just shows like what Doctor Who is capable of doing, and people just think of cheap sets or weathery monsters, but some of the best episodes of Doctor Who, like this one, don't have any of that. And it's a showcase that Doctor Who's a very good television show and people should watch it, and it produces some great stuff. But yeah, it's creepy, atmospheric, very frustrating, but it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Yes, the humans are the biggest monsters of us all, blah blah blah, done before, but I think it's done exceptionally well here. And yeah, very well regarded in the general fandom. I think it's very obvious why. Easily the standout of series 4 thus far for me, and one of my favorites that we've covered so far, Shouting into the Void.
Yep, I think that's exactly the same for me. It's been a while since I've seen the episode, so I couldn't remember the specifics.
Yeah, I think that also helped it with me. I haven't watched this in yonks. And also, I didn't get to watch this episode live. I've never watched this episode live because I was on holiday when listened to Left Dead. And I can't believe I missed like 2 of the best episodes of the series. Probably my 2 favorites, to be honest. So I'm always just watching it like, God, I wish I could have seen this live and got the reactions and stuff, because I missed out on all that. But
it is great. It's just, I know it doesn't feel like it's a budget saving episode. Like, if you didn't know it was a budget saving episode, you probably wouldn't expect it. So I think that helps. It shows how good of a story you can tell with a limited budget. Because often people point at the show and say, "Oh, it needs more money to fix whatever problems it has," when that's not the case. It's never really been the case. Sure, a bigger budget would help with CGI sometimes, but that won't change anything else. And this just shows with a good script, you can make it as simple as you want. All the actors do a really good job in it. The monster itself is quite creepy, and I think it plays into, again, something that everyone fears, especially when you can't see it. And yeah, I just think it's strange. I just don't have the words for it, but I just really enjoyed it, and I think it's just such a unique episode. I think that it hasn't been replicated since, I think, in the show, moving forward, which is a positive, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to see, I mean, it's a negative that there's never been episodes this good, but it's a positive that this is like a standout, if that makes sense. But yes, as I mumble away, we will go on to our positives and negatives of the episode. We start with the positives because they're always the nicer things, and we end with the negatives, although I did struggle again with negatives this week.
I had the perfect 3 and 3, but some of my negatives are kind of nitpicky.
I've got quite a few positives, but I've got some main ones, and then I had to struggle with the negatives, and you'll see why when we get to my last one at the very least. Okay. But what is your first positive?
First of all is David Tennant and Leslie Sharp. I've put them in together because I feel like, they kind of need each other to really, really shine, because obviously they're copying each other or one of them's ahead, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, they're both fantastic. Leslie Sharp, of course, plays Sky in this one, in case you didn't know the actress's name. But yeah, they're fantastic together. I like their little scenes at the start anyway, when they're kind of establishing more of the characters, and they have a few nice moments together. And then just, when it all goes to shit. And just that sudden change. I think Leslie is the main threat for the bulk of the episode. She kind of needs to carry a lot of that tension, and I think she does a great job with that. Can't imagine how bloody difficult it was for her to, have to not only, well, with some fun facts, they actually did a few cheeses to make this episode a lot easier to film. But she still had to kind of memorize the intonations of how people said lines, and I can't imagine how bloody difficult that would have to do. And have to be for a long time, and take after take after take. So I think, just taking on this one episode role is still kind of a huge feat for her. I think she did a fantastic job with that. And David Tennant was fantastic as well. The moments where he's kind of powerless, and I think that's why this episode is really scary, is because the Doctor can't do anything, and it's actually the hostess who saves the day in the end, because it all just goes horribly wrong because humans are awful. And yeah, just the look on his face when he's being dragged out, and you can see he doesn't want to say these words, but he has to. Really, really frightening stuff to just see the Doctor so powerless, and he's great at kind of exploring that. But I think, the chemistry between all of the people in there is appropriate. Obviously, they kind of all like him and stuff, but they do that really well, and that kind of comes across quite well, the paranoia and stuff. But I do think, David and Leslie are the two standouts, because they have the bulk of the material and they have to carry it with. And yeah, they're just fantastic.
Yep, that's fair enough. They're actually my second and third. What do you know?
Oh, awesome.
So a very strange. I'll guess I'll put them both here, and then we'll just fly through the rest. Yeah, I think it's like they both gave sort of the same performance, I think, but in different ways, because they both have to be scared and sinister in different times. Sky's obviously a completely different character between before being possessed and post-possessed, which shows great range on Leslie's half there. Because you get the feeling, when you first meet her, you get the feeling that she wouldn't hurt anyone. She's quite relaxed, quite calm. She can be a bit tense, I think is the best word to describe. But we don't know the backstory there about who she is. But you get that she feels like she's like the most vulnerable in the group, which is obviously why the alien targets her in the first place. And then from when the alien targets her, it's a complete sinister turn. I think the eye makeup helps definitely portray the change. And then the work opposite David Tennant as well, where they both have to sort of be in sync with each other. I think works very well. It's just the way they would have had to work on this together to make sure everything was right and correct, and said the same way, especially as it goes from maybe not so much repeating, but at the same time, and then sort of post, where she kind of has to adopt his persona a little bit but still remain the possessed Sky. So it's sort of getting the different ways right, I think, is done very well. And then I think for David Tennant and the Doctor, it's a case of how his character is so like broken down into him acknowledging that he's better than everyone else, which he knows, but he never normally says in an episode. But the fact that it's brought out in his character in this one is just it showcases how sort of claustrophobic everything is and how everyone just turns on each other rapidly, because that's something the Doctor wouldn't normally do. He's just sort of, although he will admit that at times and he knows he is smarter than everyone else in the room, he'd never say it, especially in this situation when everyone needs a calm head. And for David Tennant to sort of show the different side, I think, of the Doctor, and the fact that he's scared of not knowing what this monster could do and trying to keep everybody sane and to not let anyone else die. I think we do see, different stages of the Doctor, from the usual hero trying to keep everyone to shit, I don't know what to do with this, to them being literally the villain in the humans' eyes, at least for a minute. And I think they both do a great job, which is why they're both in my top three as 2 and 3. It was Sky first and then the Doctor is third, if that makes any difference. But yes, so in that case, what's your second? And then we'll go on to my first.
Okay. My second is the pacing. I wanted to really point it out because that was my big concern going into this one. I was like, is this going to take ages to get going? But I think, I think it's quite perfectly paced, to be honest. Even to the point where, the Doctor ends up like being the one he's possessed and stuff. That happens with like 12-ish or so minutes left of the episode. Things start to really go wrong about 18 minutes or so in. It's really, really well kind of structured in that sense, I thought. The episode just flew by for me right from the off. And yeah, I was very nervous that the whole setup period and waiting for things to go wrong was just going to be like, just get on with it. But I think there's so much lovely character stuff in there and really good setting up of all those characters, which needs to happen so you can kind of see why, for the most part, they act the way they act later on. And like teasers of backstory stuff. I think it's really well done. And before even like the cabin gets attacked or whatever, you have the very creepy bit where the Doctor's like checking with the drivers and one of them sees a shadow like running towards the bus. Like just that image is terrifying to me. She's like, what does that look like? What could that possibly be? Just whatever you picture, I think is really scary. And then it all goes even further wrong. And just to set up with like Sky's recently single, and then when the bus is attacked, she's like, she said she'd get me, and you're like, what does that mean? Just the unanswered questions builds up the mystery, and that keeps you watching even more, and then things just escalate and go further and further wrong. And there's still enough time when the threat is dealt with and the hostess yeets herself out. There's still a few moments to just kind of calm down a bit, waiting for them to be rescued. When I love the bit where they don't know the hostess's name. That's so sad, but I love that. And then a nice scene at the ending as well, the Doctor and Donna, to wrap it all up. So yeah, I think this is one of the best paced episodes that we've covered thus far. And I was really, really impressed with how it was structured and how it flew by.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I don't think there was any point where I sort of felt, come on, let's get to this bit, or okay, I'm ready to see what happens next. I never thought, how long's left, that kind of thing.
And I think that's even more impressive given so much of this is just someone repeating what someone else is saying. That could have easily been so tiresome so quickly. But the performances and how things continue to escalate and how the repeating kind of changes and evolves as the creature kind of gets smarter and latches onto the Doctor and stuff like that. It's very cleverly done. Yeah,
and there's no cuts away from the car, van, lorry.
Yeah, we don't check in with Donna, just shoot them one of her eyes, like
which they could have easily done, if they wanted to give something.
But I think that would have killed it. So I'm glad they did.
Which is, I think, fair enough. So my sort of first positive is just the mystery surrounding what the monster alien actually is. It's just so creepy, because you never see it. Is it this just spectral form that just can appear and disappear and go through walls or whatever, or is it a physical form that is sat outside the van the whole time that just projects inside? Obviously, with the mechanic being like, there's something coming towards us, is like one of the creepiest bits of the episode, because it's just you're trying to see that when it cuts back to the view, you're like, where is it? I can't see it. And then that makes things sort of like 10 times worse, because you're then expecting something to come. but the fact that you still never see it, I think, is very clever, and obviously it saves budget, which is very smart. But even the fact that we don't know what it looks like, what its actual purpose is, we don't know why it's taking over. Is it to learn? Is it to engage? Is it to kill everyone? Did it make the van detour because it went on that detour because of like a rock fall or something like that, wouldn't it? Did it do that so it could lure them into this place where they would be harder to find?
Mm-hmm.
It's because we don't know that sort of motive. I think it really makes the monster even scarier, because it could be anything. It could be a case of it wants to use them just to get back to everybody else. It wants them off its planet because they've invaded, or it just wants to kill because it's something there that isn't there before. I think all of it's very creepy, and the fact that it's all left up to your imagination, I think, is genius, because then nobody can complain about what it looks like. The scariness isn't going to be debated because it can be scary for whatever you want it to be, which I think is very useful. And I credit Russell for making this come to life without anything else other than your imagination and a few knocking on walls. But yeah, what is your third?
Third, yes.
Excellent.
Shout out to my boy Jethro.
Yes, he's in my extras. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a smart choice to have at least one person who's actually a decent person and never really actively, like, I think he's more so bullied into, going along with things at times. He never actively is like, yes, we should throw them out. Because like Dee Dee all seems like nice and innocent stuff, and she's like, actually, it can be done. We can throw them out. Shut up, Dee Dee, you snake. I'm glad you got shouted at. I hope you never find a lost mean of pooch, because the doctor does it, so your discovery is nonsense. But yeah, I really enjoyed having someone you like. Okay, you're nice, you're okay. Yeah. Especially when he's presented as like, could have easily been the trope, like moody teenager goth who doesn't want to get involved in stuff, and that very much is how it starts. We kind of see those layers peeled away when he's that frightened. You see who he really is. And Colin Morgan's fantastic anyway. He's a great actor. He's gone to do many wonderful things, including Merlin, which started a bit later on after this aired, the same year. So good year for Colin Morgan. But yeah, he was really great in the role. You kind of really buy into the fact that the doctor likes him as well. It's just, he's well written and performed in that sense. And in a sea of people you just want to strangle and you just want to throw out of that bloody bus, it is nice that it's not just like we're really leaning into humans a horrible thing. There's someone good there as well, especially because this would be a totally different episode if Stunner was there. Like it would have been over in 10 minutes. She'd been like, you can shut up, mister. And she would have just, the creature would have run away if Donna was in there. But yeah, I really did enjoy having someone in there who you still kind of like, okay, you're okay. I think that balances it out a bit when you're just like, this is not fun for me to watch because all the characters are so awful. Having one in there, I think helps with that balance. So I really liked Jethro in this a lot, which was a surprise to me because I couldn't remember a lot about any of the characters, but I did really like Jethro.
That's fair. I think he also adds in a little bit of levity in certain situations. Specifically when she's repeating, he's like, "Oh, my name's Jethro 666." He just makes
I like the 666.
Made me laugh twice in what is a very like creepy moment. I just couldn't help myself. I think he is, and it sort of, you see the dynamic that he's used by his parents, I think is the best way to put it, because Val is like, when the doctor asks Jethro, "Oh, what do you think we should do?" and he's like, "Oh, I don't think we should throw out." She's like, "Oh, you don't get a vote or whatever." And then later on, she's like, "Oh, what do you think, Jethro?" Because she knows that she can get him on her side to prove her point.
Yeah.
And I think that also showcases another side to not just humans, but how certain family relations work. And because I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially. And yeah, I've been putting that, Jethro's the only one talking sense. And I think he's definitely the most relatable person on that coach, especially at the end where he's going, "Ah!" Just everything going on. But yeah, that's fair enough. I quite liked him, even though as you mentioned, he could have just been very cliche, and I think it was very useful to have him in it, amongst a cast of not very nice people in the end, although again it's the whole point of they can be nice until they're put into that whole situation. But anyway, have you got any other additional positives you want to hit on?
I think that just like all the supporting cast, not the characters, because the characters are awful and I hate them, but
Yeah.
for the right reasons, you're supposed to. I think they all did a great job, getting the claustrophobia and the paranoia across and showing the real dirty, catty sides to humans at times. And I think they all came across as very, very layered. And David Trouten, who plays the professor, was a very, very last minute replacement as well. So I think he did a bloody good job considering he didn't have a lot of time to really prepare for that role. So they were all great. And a few bits of like staging and direction I thought were pretty well done as well. I love how the episode starts with, there's a few people sat together, like Biff and Val sat together, and then the professor and Dee Dee sat together. And then when they're waiting for help, everyone's just sat on their own seat, just completely separate. In all the couples that were sat together now separate because they've had arguments and stuff. A few moments like that I thought were very telling and really well done. And again, it's just subtle. They're not really hammering home that everyone's sat in their own seat because everything's falling apart. It's just there for you to kind of notice that if you want to, take in their own moments to kind of process what happened. And a few moments like that, I think they do some great character stuff in this one.
Yeah, I agree. And then that obviously plays into sort of one of my additional ones, which is just the showcase of how humanity can be an absolute shit place when approached with stress and terror and angst. And I feel that you can definitely compare this episode to recent events, I guess, in the past couple of years, when people are presented with certain...
Oh yeah, Biff and Val are absolutely anti-vaxxers.
yeah, they won't wear a mask.
And Jethro absolutely got it in secret and didn't tell them.
Jethro's got all three, and he wears his mask everywhere, even with his parents.
It's got a skull on it.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, I think it does a good job of just showing how everyone cannot make the right decisions when they're stressed and worried about things. Which I think is fair enough. It's quite a stressful situation. I probably wouldn't be thinking straight in the same boat.
And I like also that they have like different arcs when shit hits the fan as well. Because you have like Biff and Val, who I think just get worse and worse and worse as people, and they really kind of show how nasty they are. Then the hostess is the first one to suggest throwing Sky out, and in the end, she's like, "Oh no, it's her doing it," and she saves the day at the end. So I like that it's not just they all are shit and they become even shitter. She kind of slightly redeems herself in a way. I would just held onto a bar or something and then yeeted her out, but she wanted to make sure, and I think that shows a lot of bravery from her. So I like that. They could have easily just had them all be terrible. Especially with Jethro's inclusion, they probably could have gotten away with the arcs being quite similar as well. But the fact that they had someone else save the day was a really strong choice.
Yeah, even with like Dee Dee sort of standing up and being her own person rather than just sort of working under the professor and doing whatever he said, I think quite worked well. The professor realizing that not everything is just about facts and things and what you can see and what his whole science is challenged in this with there's no life outside in midnight. It's like, well, I think you'll find there is, mate. I don't know what Jethro's character arc is. I guess just taking things a bit more seriously than what they were at the start. But yeah, I think it was I think they were all very well, and it was just an excellent showcase of just human nature, I think. Now
last season.
Oh yeah. Now we're on to the negatives. My first one, that joke.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
No,
Idiots.
My first one is the host.
Oh,
I think
she's the hostess with the mostess.
I know, but obviously she sacrificed herself at the end, which I think is fine. But I get that she's supposed to not be caring about the job and that kind of stuff. But I'm like, come on, you need to at least assess the situation before you start reciting your everything's fine, just give me a minute kind of thing. Like, I just get the impression that she just didn't care about anything up until she was going to die, or she was about to die and be killed, or potentially be killed by this alien. Also, as you mentioned, she suggests just throwing her off, which I'm like, okay, fine. Even though she was just like absolutely shocked that two people, the two crew members, had died, she was just happily willing to throw somebody else off. I guess it's easier if you don't know them and maybe your life's at risk. But I think she was the weakest of the characters. I don't think there's necessarily an arc there for her. I don't think that she didn't necessarily grow as a character, other than going, we should kill her, to then killing her. I don't think I don't think that's necessarily growth. Obviously, you could argue that maybe her saying she wants to survive and that's why we should kill her, to her sacrificing herself, is a slight arc, but at the same time, I think she just realized that there was no other way out. And you would hope that anyone in that situation might do the same. But I think of a great cast, and I mean, she's not definitely by no means like the worst character we've ever seen in the show and the worst whatever, but I just think she's the weakest of the cast. She doesn't get as much to do, I don't think, other than the sacrifice. And yeah, it just at the start when she was like, here's all of the entertainment at once, I'm like, come on, surely you wouldn't do this, surely this isn't how it works, nobody could focus on anything there, that's ridiculous, surely you must know this.
That's the joke.
I know it is, but it doesn't make any sense. It might make sense if there was like different sections where they could go and do different things, but it doesn't make sense to just have it all on like the one wall up the front where you have like the music and the video and the star map. I'm like, what? It all overlaps. But fine, whatever, it's fine. And like I said, she's not the worst thing ever in the show, but in this episode, I think she was just the weakest link. But yeah, never mind. So what's your first negative?
They clearly can't tell that Sky's evil.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
For me, that's the one point where the writing kind of falters for me. Because the whole point is they're so scared, they're so paranoid, they're picking up on the tiniest little details and analyzing them like, oh, he did say that. They were talking with each other earlier. Yeah. And the fact that they then miss the most obvious evil face and she's just like smiling as they're all fighting. Yeah. And the fact that, when they first were, Sky didn't talk to any of them before they were attacked. She was really quiet and shy and everything. The fact that she's now just super loud spoken and speaking really slowly and stuff like that, not seeming to care about much, when they just saw how terrified she had been at the start, is a completely different person still. The fact that they don't even get a bit of an inkling until she says something that the hostess heard the doctor say earlier, convenient.
Yeah.
It's a bit like it's only just because they're so hyper aware of everything in that state, and the episode has spent 20 minutes showing that, and they're picking apart every little thing. The fact that they're so ignorant to that, I don't think quite works quite as well. I think it's just it happens because the story needs that to happen. They need to ignore it for a bit so they can have an extra 5 minutes of the doctor potentially getting yeeted out. So that's my big issue with it. I just feel like even if there was more of a fight from a few people and they're like, no, screw you, Biff could have been just like, screw you, I'm just throwing him out anyway, that I'm absolutely right because he's that kind of person. Mm-hmm. It just seemed weird for everyone to kind of completely ignore that and disregard it entirely and not really note it until the plot required it to. So that was my kind of big issue, really.
Yep, I think that's fair. I think it is, it goes back to the whole, she's doing the evil voice. Come on, guys. She's got the evil look and the evil voice. She's still evil. But, maybe that's hammed up for the audience's effect so that they can see it rather than the characters. You could argue they're too focused on the doctor. They're not looking or paying attention to her. Fine, whatever. But yeah, I do agree that it's a bit of you have to suspend your disbelief, I think, that they wouldn't notice it, which, it's fine, I guess. It is a sci-fi show.
It's a shame, but yeah, fine.
Yeah. My sort of second negative is I think at times the music is slightly overbearing.
Music was mine as well. Music was my third one.
Yeah.
Particularly when she first starts repeating them, it goes ding every time it cuts to her. I'm like, stop doing that.
Yeah. I just think at times it's a bit too loud when it should be a bit quieter, I think, more than anything. Because you could have done this with the minimal score, I think, which might have made it a little bit creepier as well. Which is a shame because we said how good the music was last week. It's a shame that it's in the negatives this week for being just sort of too much.
It doesn't need it. It just doesn't need it.
No. In an episode which is very like small scale, it doesn't need this big soundtrack to it. But I mean, it's something that I can deal with because I don't mind Murray Gold's music overall. So it's not like it. I think the only good thing is that it's not bad music, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's not like the worst thing I've ever heard, so therefore it's ruined the episode. It makes sense in the episode, but I don't think it needs to be as loud as it is, at the very least. but that's a slight nitpick, I guess. In that case, what's your second slash last?
Second slash last. There's a lot of dialogue for me that's very repetitive, but not for the right reasons in the episode. It's a very Rusty Davies thing where all the characters go, "It can't be, that's impossible," again and again and again. I'm pretty sure I've had this as a negative in a previous episode. I feel like I remember talking about this. It's one of my biggest bugbears for him as a writer. It happens all the time, and it doesn't need to happen because people don't say that again and again and again. And especially have maybe one or two characters say it, but so many of them say it. And in the next episode, it happens again with the stars going out. Oh, it can't be. And especially the Stolen Earth is the worst fucking one of all, because the whole opening act is, that's impossible.
Look at the sky.
Martha,
look at the sky.
Can't be.
Look at the sky.
Look at
the sky.
Like,
just show me the sky then.
Say that. Yeah, just have one person say that. Then you see everyone else just notice the sky. You don't need to. And again, that just completely frustrates me and takes me out of it, because I'm like, oh, this again. I know you need to pad out the episode or whatever, and I know repetition is kind of key in this one, but not like this, Russell. So yeah, that's a Rusty Davies trope that I hope is vanished when he returns, because I hate it. And yeah, there's a few moments in this one. Oh, it's Let Me Go. Oh, I'm gonna try now. Oh, it's Let Me Go. Oh, I'm gonna try. Yes, we get it. Just okay. But fine. So yeah, I find that so aggravating. And because I'm so aware of it now, it just takes me out of the moment completely.
Yay.
Again. Yay.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's more. I mean, Russell does it a lot, but I think it's also a thing for the show in general, because I think we spoke in the Flux discussions where Chibnall does a sort of similar thing where people say what's happening rather than just sort of showing.
Yeah, I think that's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think it's more so that the younger people in the audience can understand what's going on. I think
younger people are smarter than the writers.
Yeah, no, I know they are, but you know, they overcompensate, I think, for it.
They do.
Which is a shame. My third negative is Rose. Do you remember Rose? Companion Rose?
It makes no sense. At least like have him see it if you're gonna try and do it again.
First, so obviously the big one is the screen, which has conveniently fallen down off the roof once they've crashed. Like just have it. Oh, I had a friend that's trapped in a parallel universe. That's fine. That's a good reference to know who we're talking about, to put it in your mind, ready for next week. Don't have her then appear on the screen and be like, Doctor, and then nobody see it. Not even the Doctor, because he's facing away. But that means people are facing him. So surely someone went, oh, who's that person on that screen? Why is
and they never explain why and how she does that. In the end. It's just, and she's in the Blade Next Time trailer at the end of this episode. I know she's going to be in it. I know she's coming back.
It's just, I think it just takes away. It took me out of the episode, I think. Not mainly the screen one, not when she was mentioned sort of in passing to Sky.
I think that one makes sense.
That one's fine because it plays into Sky's lost her girlfriend, the Doctor's lost his girlfriend. One's halfway across the universe, the other's in a different universe. It creates the sort of bond between the two of them that they can relate to. But it just doesn't make sense for her to appear on the screen. It didn't make sense for her to appear on the TARDIS screen. Like, it would, like the first time she appears at the start of the series when she's like running and she sees Donna or where Donna sees her and stuff, that kind of makes sense because she's jumping two different universes. Yeah. But this implies that she has access to some kind of camera that can project onto any kind of screen in any universe just to try and get.
Yeah. And then she has bloody webcam issues in episode 12. I'm like, well, bring that thing with you that you're using to somehow channel to the planet Midnight.
Yeah, exactly. So
in the 27th century, might I add.
I think this for now it's fine, like it's a nitpick, but I think, and I don't think it's going to get referenced or explained. But I think if it doesn't get explained next week at least, I think I'll be even more annoyed because I'm still going to hold out hope that maybe there'll be some reference. I think maybe when they go to the TARDIS and maybe she explains something there. I'm hoping there's a line that I've just forgotten that might explain it. But there might not be because I can't remember anything. So it could be that this is not explained. So at the minute it's a nitpick, but if there's no sort of solid I wouldn't even take a solid one. I'll just take a line of whimsy dialogue saying, "Oh yeah, the TARDIS helped me track his location in different universes or whatever." I don't care. Just give me a line that at least shows that they thought about how it would work. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that, but that's something more for next week. But yeah, I just think it's just unnecessary. It took me out of the episode. I know you have to do the whole thing where you want to, link it back to the finale, which is coming up, and you want to do the big arc, but there are better ways to do it throughout the series. You could have more of there's something on your back type line that's said to Donna, because that was mentioned in Fires of Pompeii, then never said again.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I think this is probably the series where it's the most flimsy in terms of the full story arc, because I don't think when you see it, it doesn't really make sense. At least like Saxon, you had a good reference. Bad Wolf was good reference. All that kind of stuff was good.
This is the first missing planet mentioned in 8 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they had like different ways of how they could tie it in, back, stars going out, missing planets, Rose, but they just didn't know how to put them in the episodes. They feel like an afterthought. Because even with Poosh, it's one line that's just put in there. There's nothing, major.
And then the next episode, episode 12 tweets are like, aha!
That
most people have forgotten what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people wouldn't have even watched this episode because Rose wasn't in it.
Yeah, right? Exactly. But yes, it's unfortunate. But never mind. And then the music was your third one then.
Yes, the music.
Nice. Did you have any other slight negatives?
Not really, no, because I do want to remind people I really like this.
yeah. I mean, it's the case, and it always is the case with us, where there will be negatives, but because they're so ridiculous negatives, we'll go on more of a tangent than if they were like serious ones.
I think it's just easier to explain my frustrations than my praises.
Yes, yeah, because
as is often the case. I mean, it's the internet. It's clearly
that is how it works. Go on Twitter. But yeah, I think overall this episode was excellent, very good.
Yes.
I just cannot praise it enough, I don't think. But before we rate it, do you have some fun facts?
I do indeed.
Yay!
Let me get some fun facts up. All right then. So, working titles for this episode are very boring. One of them was Crusader 5. One of them was Crusader 50.
They thought hard for that one, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly why they were considering that, I will explain in a moment. This is the first companion-like episode of Doctor Who, as Catherine Tate was filming the Doctor of Light episode Turn Left, at least the revived Doctor Who anyway. That's why we don't see Donna, and we barely see Tennant in the next one. This was originally episode 8, airing before the Library two-parter, but was ultimately pushed back to episode 10. The shuttle bus was called Crusader 50 because that was going to be a reference to the fact that this was the 50th episode of the revived series. David Trouten's appearance would have also added some symmetry to that, as he appeared in the 50th Classic series story. But it was still the 50th revived series episode to be filmed, so I guess that's something. And also, they actually filmed this mainly in chronological order of the start to the end of the episode, which hasn't really been done since the John Pertwee days, so that's fun, little behind-the-scenes stuff. This is the first story since Genesis of the Daleks in 1975 to not feature the TARDIS in any way, shape, or form. The other stories not to feature the TARDIS include Mission to the Unknown, Doctor Who and the Silurians, The Mind of Evil, The Demons, The Sea Devils, The Sontaran Experiment, The Lie of the Land, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, and Ascension of the Cybermen. So plenty of them. The only other episode prior to this where the Doctor doesn't have a companion to assist him is The Deadly Assassin, though that earlier story is still the only one where there's no companion present at all. Oh. This is the first time in Doctor Who history that the villain is never even partly shown, being only described as a shadow heading towards the bus. David Trouten, who plays the Professor, is the son of second Doctor Patrick Troughton. This is his third appearance in the show following his father's final story, The War Games, and the third Doctor story, The Curse of Peladon. He was a last-minute replacement for original actor Sam Kelly, who had to pull out after he broke his leg in a car accident.
Oh dear.
Whoopsie. Oh dear. Helen Worth, aka Gail Platt from Coronation Street, was offered the role of Valkane, but she turned it down. Lots of turning down, but that's fine. Whatever. She had to film Corrie, I guess. Rose's appearance in this episode was specifically filmed for Midnight, but the footage was seen previously in The Poison Sky early in the season, as Russell decided to reuse it there for some reason. Russell wrote the initial script in 3 days as a last-minute replacement for the originally planned story Century House by Tom McRae, who wrote the Cyberman 2 part in Series 2. The episode would have seen the Doctor join a most haunted style show investigating a haunted house while Donna watched at home. Russell felt the comedic tone of the episode was too similar to The Unicorn and the Wasp, which would have aired directly before this episode, and he wasn't satisfied with the concept that he'd given McRae in the first place, so the episode was scrapped.
So it's not your fault. It's my fault. I shouldn't have given you this in the first place. Sorry, you're never going to write this.
It literally was. It's not you, it's me. And he got rid of his episode. But
Hush.
Yeah. But luckily, he wrote The Girl Who Waited in Series 6, so they did bring him back eventually. The Lost Moon of Poosh is a reference to the Missing Planets arc resolved at the end of Series 4, alongside the already mentioned Unopposed 3 in Episode 1 and Pyrovidia in Episode 2. So Sky could repeat everyone's words and intonations without actress Leslie Sharp having to learn all the lines. The production crew set up monitors in front of each actor, which would scroll their lines for Leslie to read. The actors delivered their lines, and Leslie only had to copy the intonations. So they made it easier on her, because that probably would have been very stressful. For the scene where everyone's talking together and Sky's copying, the actors pre-filmed their scene, and then Leslie's parts were recorded separately. The voices were then all joined together in post-production. So it was 2 separate filming days, and then they just spliced them all together. There couldn't be a single deviation from the script to ensure the sound team could edit the scenes correctly. So they had one hell of a job in this episode. So there you go. The hardest dialogue for David Tennant and Leslie Sharp to film were ones when they had to be totally in sync with the same intonation. They had to breathe and open their mouths simultaneously and spent a lot of time practicing to get it right. Tennant found reciting Pi to be the hardest scene, as it was like a lot of mumbles because she was a little bit behind him, which I think is fair, because I can't imagine having to learn that and then actually try and copy it while someone else is copying you. And then finally, we have some inspirations for this episode. Russell was inspired by the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Darmok, where Picard is trapped on a planet with a being who speaks a language incompatible with his universal translator.
Did you say bin? B-I-N?
What?
What did you say? With a what?
A being.
Oh, I thought you said with a bin. I was like, oh, that's a very strange episode. Really cut the budget there, didn't they?
Yeah, damn, trash episode. He was also inspired, shockingly, by the annoying habit of children mimicking others, as well as Jeepers Creepers 2, where a high school basketball team is trapped on a bus by an ancient monster, which just so happened to be airing on TV as he was developing the story for this episode. Oh. So we can thank Jeepers Creepers 2 for airing on TV, for giving us this excellent episode of Doctor Who. So those were all his inspirations. And that, my friends, is some fun-ass facts.
Very fun. Well done. Oh, Jeepers Creepers 2. Imagine that.
Who'd have thought?
I'm still waiting for that Star Trek Doctor Who crossover episode that he's going to write.
Please no.
It's going to come. He's got a second chance. He's going to do it.
I hope not. As long as he doesn't do the J.K. Rowling one, at least.
Yeah, he won't anymore. That's gone. He has to do Star Trek now. Oh, anyway.
They did it in a comic. What more do we want?
Live action. Comics don't count.
Oh, I see.
Especially not if you're on Twitter. Comics are rubbish. Don't want them in my Doctor Who magazine.
In my Doctor Who.
Yes. Anyway, that leaves us one last thing to do this week, and that is rate the episode. What are you giving it out of 10?
9.5 from me.
Oh, very nice. I'm giving it a 9.
Nice. I only didn't go. I was so tempted to go the whole 10.
Yeah.
But I thought it's a great episode, but I can't have fun rewatching it because it's just so horrifying and the characters are so infuriating. I wouldn't have a good time watching this again and again and again. Like something like Blink, I could watch again and again and again.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of the episode's design in a way, but it's not a fun episode for me to rewatch, which is why I haven't seen it in years. But excellent nonetheless. And that's the best scoring one for series 4.
Yeah, so. by miles. I say by miles, by at least 0.5.
By at least 0.5.
Yeah, well, I mean, still.
By at least the smallest amount which we rate.
Yeah. I think it was a great episode, and I do agree that I don't think I could rewatch this straight after this again. It's not just one that you can put on and just be like, hey, I'm just gonna watch a nice episode of Doctor Who. It's the one where humanity turns on itself. Yay! Because that's no fun for anyone.
But we've had 3 very dark episodes of Doctor Who now. I'm glad that I'm sure we're going to get a nice light-hearted one next.
It's going to be lovely. Nobody's going to die.
Certainly no Holocaust 2.0.
No.
Or anything like that.
No
Certainly no mass murder.
Suicide. It's
certainly
fine.
No companion deaths happening in various ways. Be fine.
Yes. Next week is Turn Left. Which sees the reverse of this. The Doctor Light episode. The Doctor's dead. He's dead. He's gone.
He's dead.
He drowned. Donna wasn't there to save him because she turned left instead of right. So she was never employed by, I've forgotten what the company's called.
H.C. Clements.
That's it. Never employed by them. Never met Lance. Never got involved with Arachnos. Never met the Doctor. Doctor never stopped the flood, so he just drowned himself. Like I said,
he drowned in his angst.
The 10th Doctor's always ready to kill himself, so this literally proves my point. He did kill himself. And yeah, we just see what the world would have looked like if the Doctor had died Christmas Eve 2000.
Yeah, something like that, isn't it?
2008, if I'm thinking right.
I think it
would have aired on 2007, but it would be 2008.
No, it aired 2006 because Series 2.
So it would have been 2007.
Yeah.
Oh God, this 1 year keeps coming back to bite us. Oh,
Well,
that's it. As soon as Russell gets back to the helm of the show, he's going to do it again.
It's going to be set in 2027 or something.
Yeah. Which fine, whatever. But yeah, we just see what happened. You know, all the big events we've seen: Sontaran invasion, Jadoon taking the hospital, Titanic falling to Earth. Was there any others? Is that
Adipose in America, which is where they should have gone in the first place.
Yeah, they really should have. Maybe that's what he realized.
Yeah, oh shit.
Whoops, it makes more sense. And yeah, we see the shit state the world would be in if the Doctor didn't exist. And it does set us up nicely for the series finale, which is obviously coming up straight after. Which means we're slowly running out of episodes of the Doctor and Donna. We're even more slowly running out of episodes of David Tennant completely. I mean, Catherine Tate's only not going to be in 3 episodes, I guess, of David Tennant's final ones, because she is in, his final 2. But as a companion, she only has 3 episodes left, which is sad. And yeah, it's a very exciting time, I think. What do you remember of Turn Left, other than depression?
Oh, well, nothing then. Well, it's Catherine Tate's tour de force, I think. If people still were doubting her at this point, I think this is the episode that really proves her wrong. Very clever kind of exploit of a moment earlier in the show that we could kill him here and do a what if episode, which certainly have taken off in recent times.
They're all the trends now.
They really are. And there's some excellent episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that did it in 2017. So check those out. But yeah, Star Trek does some good what if episodes. And yeah, this is a very good example of it, I think. I really like what they do with it. Again, depressing as hell. Not one I would actively rewatch all that much, but I think it's a very, very good episode. Will be cool to see Rose's properly grand return at long last and see how that fares all these years later. Because there's a lot of hype building up to her return as this was airing. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it all pans out. Bernard Cribbins is always going to be something to praise. Sylvia's awful again. I think she actually has her worst moment ever in that episode, from what I remember. And they sing Bohemian Rhapsody, so it's not so bad. But yeah, I'm very excited to watch this one again because I do remember it being really quite good. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think I used to really like this one growing up, especially with all like the little hints towards other characters in the universe that again sets up for the final. Yeah, so everybody dies.
Sarah Jane dead.
Sarah Jane's kids dead. Children
all of them dead.
Owen dead. Already dead before we could die.
Already dead. Yeah, spoilers if you haven't watched Tortured.
Well, I mean, if you've not watched Tortured, I mean, I don't know what you're. We've told you before, watch it. It's good. And I mean, you're better off watching. You need to watch series 1 and 2 before we get to the finale, else you'll be very confused.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
the poor kids that couldn't watch Tortured because it's so adult.
Yeah, but they would.
These people.
They would just be 2 extra characters. They wouldn't have cared. But the true fans watch Tortured anyway. They found a way. I found a way.
Those poor fans.
Oh, but yes, that I think is it for us this week. We will be back next week for Turn Left. Yeah, I mean, if any big Doctor Who news breaks, which again it could do, you never know. Any minute now, we might get a trailer for the new special, which is coming.
They might have just revealed the Doctor on Twitter for all we know.
They might have
recording for like an hour.
it is the middle of the day on a Friday, so prime time, if we're being honest. Oh, no, they went out.
Doctor.
Said, oh, ooh.
No.
Oh,
I actually did kind of panic then, because the first tweet I saw was breaking news. They've pinned the Sea Devils are returning.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh my god. I was like, oh my god, we're breaking this live. I can tell you 14th Doctor live. No.
Oh no.
Never mind. No such luck.
But if they do get announced, we'll obviously be back and we'll record our thoughts for that. Which I'm sure we will have once they reveal who it is. Because it literally could be anyone. So I can't wait for Patrick Stewart to be the 14th Doctor. What
an old white man.
Yeah, just what we want.
Just what we need.
Just what the fandom needs right now. An old white man to really bring everyone together.
He'll be too busy promoting something else that's coming up.
Yeah. Spider-Man 4. Yes, that is it. If there's videos in the week, you'll see them. If not, we'll be back next weekend. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.